Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Weighing In, brought to you by USA Wrestling, the national governing body for wrestling in the United States, and by Nike Wrestling. Go to athleteps.com for all of your Nike and USA Wrestling branded gear. Excited always to be joined by Grant Turner and Mark Ostrander. Boys, we've been talking a lot here the last couple months off the air. It's been a crazy season so far. Rather than try to sum up everything, just first of all, good morning, boys.
Morning, boss.
Let's get right into what's going on the USA Wrestling side of things. Quick shout out to Vito Arujau and Flow Wrestling. If you have not watched the film, we're recording this on Thursday, Feb 1. I watched it yesterday. Really well done. Those guys do a great job. And Vito I pretty much gave all access. Mark and I know Vogar from the junior college days. He was a wrestler in junior college, and he's a current coach in junior college. So I think people watch things through their own lens, obviously, and it was interesting watching that. I'm not sure I appreciated how good Vogar was when he was in junior college. He was a little undersized, and there was a kid I recruited that Mark actually got that beat him, Bobby Lowe, who ended up being a junior college national champion and Division I All-American for Minnesota. But Vogar at his best was an absolute hammer. And it's interesting, Vito talking frankly about the pressure and the blessing of being the son of a guy that good. And also the Vito-Yanni relationship is worth watching alone. Like, they reenact one of their matches. It's just a really good watch. So carve some time out for that. Get off Netflix for an hour and a half and watch that. So shout out to the boys at Flow. GT, you and I were talking off the air. There's a very important USA Wrestling event going on this Saturday in Denver. I'm going to walk through. We're going to go share screen here in a minute. Flo did their predictions. We can do our predictions, but just to walk through it, this meet qualifies people for a couple of different events. Can you explain to us what those two events are and what those lead to, please?
Yeah, so these are the challenge spots of the Olympic weight classes in order to go to the Pan Am Olympic qualifier to qualify our weight classes for Paris. At 57 kilos for the men, Thomas Gilman and everybody else is not challenging Zane Richards for that spot. So Zane is going to be the representative at 57 going to Acapulco. And then at 65 kilos, Yanni versus Nick Lee. That's one of the challenge weight classes that basically we have to be able to try to qualify those two last weights for men's freestyle, because Dake, Taylor, Snyder, and Paris have already qualified all of the other weight classes for men's freestyle going to the Olympic Games. Also, for the women's side, they have a wrestle-off at 68 kilos, which is the weight class that Emma Bruntel was a senior world team member at. And then Amelia Moore is dropping from 72. And then two other girls are challenging as well, Forrest Molinari and Mallory Velti, at that weight for our Olympic qualification basic process. All of the Greco was already handled at senior nationals, so there is no challenging. That was already handled in December, and our Olympic qualifying person was already determined at that event.
Yeah, so to go sort of 50,000-foot view, boys, each of the three styles are allowed to set their own criteria for how they do this. And Greco chose a different process than men's and women's freestyle. The best case scenario in any of the three styles is that at the 2023 World Championships, the athletes all placed in the top six and therefore, or top five this year, excuse me, it's top five, correction. And therefore would have qualified the weight. As Grant mentioned, at four of the men's weights that happened. And so that's why there's two other weights that have to be determined. In one case, there is no challenge. And then at the women's weight, we're going to walk through all this. So Flo has done an article here, and they have predictions too. So we will go through this, because let's start with men's freestyle. We'll just go in the order they have it. Nick Lee, Yanni Diakomahalis. There's only two guys here, so they will wrestle 2 out of 3. We don't really need to go through what those guys pick. Mark, GT and I were talking off the air. For people that are not hardcore freestyle fans, a freestyle match is 2 3-minute periods with a 30-second break. So if you take that as maybe a little bit longer, and it's 7 minutes to get a guy's hand raised and everything else, we would like to know with bricks and possible 2 out of 3s, what is the total match time of these two? I'll set the over-under with bricks and everything at 37 minutes.
I'd go under on that, David. That's a long time. I'm not saying it couldn't happen, but I'm going to go under on that.
Okay, where would you set it? Because we've seen Zane and Yanni literally be 10-minute challenge.
I'm going to say 20, 21, right in there.
Well, so you don't even think it's going to be 3 matches? Because if it's 3 matches, that goes over.
I don't.
Okay, who you got?
I've got Nick Lee. Yanni has not figured him out. Nick has figured Yanni out. I mean, he's what, 3-0 in freestyle against him?
He's 3-0, but the last 2 matches were 8-8 and 7-6.
I'm going to go with Nick Lee.
All right, you have Nick Lee in 2.
Yes.
GT.
Well, I think with these two guys, I think just with Yanni's style, there's going to be at least 1 or 2 challenges per match.
Yeah, for sure.
For either way, right? So,
yeah.
I mean, I truly think that Nick Lee is done pretty well against Yanni. I think he wins this, but I think he wins it in 3. I think Yanni gets him one of the 2 to like start off, and then we have to go to that rubber match. Yeah, I think Nick's going to get him in 3.
I think the fascinating thing about this is you've got the Penn State staff, all those guys, Kale, Casey, Cody, Varner, Jimmy Kennedy, etc., against Frank Pirelli, Mike Gray. And this is a little different, right? Like it's like if you get in that Vito film, Vito and Yanni were both at Final X. And so they're concentrating on both of them. Penn State's got obviously a guy that can make the Olympic team at literally every weight class, and sometimes 2 guys that are in the top 4. But this is each coaching staff just focusing on one athlete. They're obviously in season, but their freestyle efforts right now, for the time being, the short-term view is Penn State focusing on, or Nittany Lion focusing on Lee, and Spartan Combat focusing on Yanni. I'm going to go Nick Lee in 3. It's interesting because Yanni had an unbelievable college career and isn't both those guys are super likable guys. But I tend to think what both you guys say. I just think he's got the right style. Penn State's figured some things out because Zane did the same thing, figured out a way to win. Okay, next weight class here.
One question before we leave, David.
Sure.
Do either of you two think that with Yanni coaching, taking time out of his training schedule because he now is also coaching at Cornell will make a difference with Nick Lee doing nothing but competing and concentrating?
Yanni's not an official coach on the coaching staff.
Yanni's not?
No.
I thought he was.
No. I mean, he's just helping out. I mean, like, he wasn't on the bench against Mizzou. He was in the stands.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of those guys, the short answer is I don't think it matters. Like, I think it's super interesting who's doing how much hard training versus play wrestling and weight class. And GT, do we know if this is scratch or 2 kgs?
I believe this has to be scratch.
Okay, because it's for a scratch meet, right?
Correct. Yep.
So again, that'll change some things. Like, one of the other interesting Vito things was like when he was starting to cut his weight and you could still see every rib and ab, he was at 141 or 142 in the documentary. He was getting down to 61 kgs GT, which is 134.2. So, he was, more or less 7 or 8 over that weight class, which is 8.8 over 57. So it'll be interesting. I mean, obviously these guys are peaking for this match. They're, in freestyle, we talk about this over and over. International, there's less and less matches. It's the opposite of like kids wrestling 200 matches a year. So super interesting one here. Okay, next one. Dom Paris, Jakara Winchester. They've wrestled several times over the last 8 years. Jakara has beat her all 8 times by a combined score of 68-7. Jakara looked really good recently. GT, you probably know more about this. I would pick Jakara in 2 just based on the last time I saw her, and I think she's significantly bigger than Dom. Am I missing something, or is that, sort of the prevailing thought process?
Yeah, I mean, I think the one issue that I think we all know about like Jakara is like 53 is probably a really tough cut for her. She's been at 55 for a really long time, and then she got matches in at the senior nationals at whatever weight that she was just at. She was just training, getting matches in or whatever. But I think Jakara is extremely talented for that weight class at 53. But Dom Parrish, they're both world champions. Jakara won a world title at 55. Dom won a world title at 53. So this is a really awesome match, but I think Jakara will get her in 2.
Marco, anything to add there?
Yeah, I just think she's got the length. Some of the things she does is a little bit unorthodox, so I'm going to go with Jakara in 2 also.
All righty. We go to 62 kilos, Kayla Miracle versus Macy Kilty, Jennifer Page winner. So, and this is only a 1-match Kilty Page match. And so, a couple things here. I was at Oklahoma State this last weekend. So, first of all, thanks to everybody down there, especially Clay Hudson for inviting me down for their casino night, which is a very cool thing. They do it inside the Hall of Fame. Got to see Leroy and Ed and Jack Carnifex and all the people involved with Hall of Fame duels that they allow me to be a part of. Really good duels, by the way. They hosted UNI and Iowa State back-to-back nights, some premier matchups, probably Keckheisen, Plot, number 1 versus number 2, and David Carr and Olenek, 2 main matches there. But, obviously Macy Kilty is down there now. And GT, I'm assuming that has a lot to do with Coleman Scott being there.
Yeah. That's big connection on, the UNC when she was transferred or to the Tar Heel Wrestling Club. So, I think it's a big thing. And then also Jakara was there for a while as well, training with the CWC.
Right. Okay. So GT, I guess walking me through this, you see who wins Kilty Page in your opinion, and then the winner, how do they do against Miracle?
Well, with Jen, she was at 59, so she's coming up to the Olympic weight. And Kilty had been at 62, so that's part of the reason why Jen is coming up to a weight class rather than dropping down to let's say 57. Right. So the weight class that's open for challenge is 62. I think for Jen versus Kilty, that's a very interesting matchup for me to kind of determine. I think Jen wrestled extremely well at Worlds here in the fall. And Macy's kind of coming back from injury and kind of has, worked her way back into the wrestling thing. But I think for this event, I think Jen wins against Macy in the first whatever match Wrestle-off, and then wrestles Kayla. And I think Kayla will get Jen in. And if that's a best 2 out of 3, I think it goes all 3.
That is a 2 out of 3. Yeah. Okay. Marco, I know you don't spend a ton of time in this space. I tend to agree with GT here. Do you have any other differing thoughts?
I kind of like Kilty winning this.
The whole thing?
The first match.
Okay.
I just think being at her weight that she's been and competing, I know she was hurt a little bit. I think that makes a difference when somebody has to come up to your weight. I think she's just a little more in tune to that weight class, and I think she's just a little bit stronger. So I guess I would take Kilty over Page, and then I think Miracle finds a way to get it done in 2.
In 2, okay. All right. So women's freestyle 68 kg. So Emma Bruntel took 6th at the Worlds, right? GT missed it by 1 match.
Yeah, so she was kind of being held together with athletic tape and glue, and basically ended up getting to that Olympic 5th place match and ended up losing a tight one.
Yeah. So she's sitting she's sitting, and the challengers are Allure, Molinari, Velti. And just walking through this, it looks like the first match is Velti versus Molinari. The winner of that takes on Allure. The winner of that takes on Bruntel. Just for this, I mean, we can talk about this as much as you want, but to me, Allure's, we've talked about this on the air. Allure's been amazing. And she's coming down. The only thing I see hurting her is, I mean, and that's a significant weight cut. It's 8.8 pounds. She's coming down from 72 to 68. But do either one of you guys see any reason why Allure doesn't end up winning this? GT, I'll start with you.
Well, I mean, all of these athletes are basically world medalists in their own right. I think, you know, Amit has probably the most medals for like the people that are wrestling specifically at this weight class, but Amit's never been at 68 yet for the senior level. I mean, the Mallory Velti Forrest Molinari match, I mean, that could end in bloodshed.
Yeah.
You know, so I think this is a very, very stacked weight for the U.S. women's national team. These are really, really high quality athletes. I'm excited to see Amit compete at 68. But you know, Emma was right there, almost able to qualify that weight class in Serbia. So I'm excited to see all of these matches, but I think it's really going to come down to how Amit feels at 68. And if she wrestles the way that she does, and she can get a leg lace on almost anybody in the entire planet,
it's a wrap.
It's a wrap.
Literally. Let me bring up something real quick, Mark, before you jump in here. GT, I think I'm right when I say this. If Allure feels terrible at 68, she can go to 76 for the trials because she was a world champ at 72 and she would still be in the semifinal of the trials bracket. First of all, that's correct, right?
Yep.
Okay. And then second of all, I think it's better for America if Allure's at 68 because of the folks that are at 76 with Blades and Welker and Adeline and everybody else. So that's an editorial comment. But okay, Mark, go ahead.
I'm going to go with Allure. And one of the reasons is I just think she's so much stronger than everybody else at this weight class. And I think also being with those two wrestling first round, David, she gets a little bit more time to recoup after the weigh-ins. And I think that will benefit her immensely. So I'm going to take her to win in 3.
In 3?
Well, she's going to win her first match, and that should be a one match.
Okay, but in the finals, you have her sweeping.
Sweeping, yes.
Okay. That's you would say winning in 1 and winning in 2 then. So, yeah.
1 and 2.
Okay. All right. Okay. So let's talk about the rankings. We might as well start at 125 because that's the weight class that's certainly been the least amount of change this year. Just been status quo the whole year. I say with tongue planted firmly in cheek. So first of all, guys, fantasygrade.com. I'm going to bring this website up again because the guy that runs this gave Mark and I some input on how we wanted it designed. And I think it's obviously biased. I think it's really good in seeing a bunch of things at once. And I probably had 7-8 Division I coaches hit me up in the last 30 days because the first coaches rankings came out. First of all, some of them didn't realize that Mark and I weren't doing rankings anymore, and they were mad at us. Second of all, they asked, well, where should you look? And we sent them here, and it's really good because they can kind of see everything at once, especially if they pull up WrestleStat next to it. So I don't want to go through. Let's just do this because, you know, we're 20 minutes in. We'll just do this at each weight class because there's been a ton of, you know, we've had a ton of results since last time we were on the air. Give me your top 4 at this weight right now. If you had to pick we'll just do this at all 10 weights and kind of be quick with it. Marco, pick your semifinalist at 125.
Oh man. Does anybody have a dart? Because that's the way this weight looks. You
need 4 darts. You get 4 darts.
Give me wow. I'm going to take Davis from Penn State. He's the only undefeated kid on the board. I'm going to take Figueroa. I'm going to take Ramos, and I'm going to take Ayala. Not in that order, but those are the four.
Well, there's no order. They're all in the semis. Okay. GT. The thing here is I can scroll down lower and there's more good team. I'm sorry to interrupt you here. Let me go as far down as I can. There you go.
Right. All right. I'm going to take Ramos, Ayala, Noto, and Flynn.
Can't argue any of that. I'm going to go Figs. Assuming Figs gets healthy, I think he has the greatest pedigree of all these guys. I'll go. I want. There's got to be something wrong with Tremblay because I just don't. I mean, like I think he could be there. I'm gonna take Braden Davis. I'm gonna go Ramos, and I'm gonna go Homer and go Noah Certain. So Noah Certain had a huge pin, by the way, Sunday, even though Mizzou lost to Cornell, like snaked him to start. Okay. 33. GT, you can go first here. Who you got? Semis.
Fix, Arujau, Nagao. Hey, I'm going to be a homer here a little bit. I'm going to go Evan Frost.
That a boy. Okay. Mark.
I'm going to go Fix, Arujau. I'm going to go Crookham, and I'm going to go with Bailey.
Nasir Bailey. Yep. And so a lot of this is where the seeds end up, right? Because like, and we all know this, but just saying this out loud, like who ends up where? I was literally talking to Stacy Fix this weekend, and I said, I don't know how this shakes out, but if Vito beats Crookham in the EIWAs, Crookham and Vito would both have lost to each other. They both would not have the better winning percentage, assuming Dayton can win out and be undefeated. And it certainly looks like he will. I mean, he handled Evan Frost in the duel. You know, if they needed to, he probably could have teched him, but he majored him fairly easily. So I think it's going to look – I think Dayton will end up – I think Crookham, Dayton, Vito are the top three seeds, and I think that's how it'll end up. I think there's a chance Kairini could end up in the 4 seed. And then if you go, well, who's going to end up in the 5 seed? And it's probably going to be the winner of the Big Ten, which is Ragus and Nagao at this point, or Bailey. Just to be different, I'll take Nagao to get revenge over Ragusin from the dual meet and be the last guy in the semis. Okay, 41. I guess it's my turn to go first. So there's a fascinating weight. Top 3 guys are Big Tens. The next 2 guys are ACC. Then you start hitting a bunch of Big 12 guys. I will tell you this. I watched the Jamison Echemendia match. I was there. And to be fair, Mark and GT and I did picks, and your boy is getting wings next weekend on the Iowa State, Oklahoma State duel. So, but to be fair, I thought Echemendia was going to win that match and got in more on the legs. I just don't like Echemendia in the 8 or 9 hole. I think he struggles with real Woods. I mean, although it was a great match at the Iowa State duel, I think Woods is a lock. I think Mendez, I think he's wrestling as well as anybody. Could possibly be the 1 seed. I don't know if they duel, Ohio State duels Iowa, but I mean, obviously Big Tens. I'm going to steal GT's guy from last year and take Lachlan McNeil to make it. Great pick last year, by the way, GT. And I will go with my heart and take Echemendia as the last guy. Marco?
I'm going to go Woods, Bartlett, Mendez, and then I'm going to kind of go out on a limb here, and I'm going to take Tom Crook. I think he's starting to actually look a lot better than he did early in the year, and everybody predicted him to be, a key player at this weight, and I think he's actually starting to wrestle that way, so I'm going to take Tom Crook.
GT.
Woods, Bartlett, McNeil, and Cale Happel.
No Mendez, huh?
No, I think Happel could get him in the
quarters
if it happens to be like a 3-6 matchup there.
Yeah. And Happel beat Jameson.
Yeah.
Happel beat Jameson in the UNI OSU duel, obviously. So that was an interesting match as well. By the way, speaking of Tom Crook, I am doing the Virginia Tech play-by-play tomorrow night on ESPN. So thanks to those guys and specifically Steve Garland and the Paulson brothers for helping me get set up there. Okay, this is an interesting weight. I think, GT, it's your turn to go first. Ridge Levitt, Caleb Henson, Jackson Arrington, Kyle Parko, Mark's adopted son, Austin Gomez, Chance Lamer, Cannon Webster's having a great true freshman year. Ty Waters is having a great freshman year. Dylan D'Amelio, Casey Swiderski, Tyler Kasich, true freshman. Caleb Rachi has come up from third string up to the starting role. So, GT, who we got?
So love it. I had Henson going to the finals, so I got to keep with him. After that, Kyle Parko is probably the most solidified, and that's kind of really chalky to like go 1, 2, and 4. But I'll take Swiderski just because I want to be just completely and utterly wrong.
I'm not sure you're wrong. Mark, Gomez, and who else?
I am taking Gomez.
Huh?
I am taking Gomez.
Yeah, of course
I don't
you
know
are.
how you figured that out. I still think he's got a shot at winning the whole thing. I think he's that good if he's healthy.
Yeah.
Henson, Lovett, and Arrington. Arrington's wrestling as good as anybody at this weight right now. So don't forget him.
He's wrestling better than Gomez?
I said he's wrestling as good as anybody at this weight.
He's wrestling as good as Gomez?
Yes. As good as Gomez, but I like Gomez.
All right. I cannot go against. By the way, GT, like Mark's really good at this. he's really good at figuring out like who's kind of on the upside and downside this time of the year. He's sneaky smart. I think Caleb Henson can win the weight. Like I watched the match at Cliff Keen and Ridge Levitt won, and there's no like terrible calls, but there's just some close calls. I think he's right there, and he's a go forward guy. So I like him and Ridge. I'm just going to be chalky here, Parko, Gomez, but if I had to pick a guy off the board that could jump in, GT, I love watching Swiderski wrestle. It's weird to me. Some of my favorite guys to watch wrestle this year are Iowa State guys. I love how Frost wrestles. I love how Swiderski wrestles. David Carr, which we'll get to in a minute, looked unbelievable against Olenek. And Bastida might be my favorite guy to watch in the country. Just like that guy getting to eat has changed his life in a dramatic way for the better. So, all right, 57. I don't know I think it's my turn to go first. So, by the way, we'll see number 1 against number 2 next Friday night. Michael Blockus has made an unbelievable run. Vinny Zerbin from St. Louis is killing people this year. Meyer Shapiro just put it on Brock Muller last weekend. Peyton Robbs had a bad downslide. I'm going to tell you guys this right now, and he's got a long way to go with the schedule, but if Vinny Zerbin wins out, he's going to be the number 2 seed at Nationals. Okay, now I don't know how great that is for him because it looks like he'd get Muller, Ed Scott, Meyer Shapiro kind of situation, but this is going to be more of a heart pick, but I'm picking Vinny. I got to be in his corner. I'm picking Teamer. I've been riding the Teamer train for years. I'm picking Shapiro because I picked him early, and I'll take Levi Haynes. So, GT?
I'll take Haynes, Franek, Teamer, and Shapiro. I think this weight class for me is it's pretty dominant up top. As like 25, as Mark alluded to, is like throwing a dart at a dartboard.
Yeah.
I just like some of these guys pretty heavy. I also just want to throw out there that like Peyton Robb, had a bad week, and that like, he could very well be in the mix here as well.
For sure. Yeah. Marco?
I agree with Grant 100%. I think it's Haynes, Franek, Shapiro, and I think, who did you pick? Teamer?
Teamer.
No.
Yeah.
Teamer, yeah. Yeah, I think that's basically quality wise, I think those are the four guys that, to me, right now stand out.
Mark, you're off the Cody Chittum train?
I like Cody, just can't stay healthy. I don't know what's going on.
He's coming back.
Well, that's great, but how long? A week? A weekend?
I think he's going to try to come back for about 8 weeks, 7-8 weeks.
We'll see.
Okay.
I think he's talented enough to be one of the top 4 kids in the country, place-wise, but where he's going to have to go in is a little tougher, I think.
I think I speak for all three of us when I say one of the guys we've enjoyed watching the last couple of years in terms of style is Bryce Andonian. And I got a chance to interview Bryce on the floor. I know Mahler, I know his mom, and some of these people I kind of know, but I really hope Andonian does finish on the podium because what a just genuine kid. Not to say that any of the other ones aren't, but just haven't dealt with him. All right, 65. Okay, so here's what's interesting about this weight. The top guy in the Big Ten is Caliendo at 6. Messenbrink's at 7. He will wrestle Caliendo. Oh, I'm sorry, Hamidi's at 5, excuse me. But nobody in the top 4. Sorry. If Messenbrink goes through the season undefeated, there's a very strong possibility he's the 2 seed, right? Like, obviously, it depends on what happens in the Big 12, but David Carr is going to wrestle O'Toole in a duel, and then all 3 of those guys are going to be in the Big 12. So far, Olynyk has beaten Ramirez. Ramirez has beaten Carr, and Carr has beaten Olynyk. So you have the ABC round robin there. Keegan's above all of it because he's been undefeated, although he had a super close match with Peyton Hall over the weekend. But, I mean, close is, it's horseshoes, right? Like, winning's winning and losing's losing. So having just kind of set the table, because I don't think Messenbrink is going to end up in the 7 hole. So, GT, you want to go first here?
Yeah, I'd love to take a professional opinion on this weight class.
Do it, brother.
All right. O'Toole, Carr, Olynyk, Caliendo.
Okay, Mark.
So,
go ahead, GT. Go ahead.
I think this is basically almost, in my opinion, basically 2 conference seeding meeting.
Yeah.
I mean, Julian Ramirez is going to do what Julian Ramirez does. He's going to be just fine. But then you're going to have to figure out how all of that bracketing and like head-to-head and all that kind of stuff plays out for your national seeding meeting. Because like he's just going to go basically almost unopposed through his conference championship. And then you're going to have epic bouts between the Big Ten and the Big 12 with O'Toole, Carr, Olynyk, Hall, right there. And then in the Big 10, of course, they're extremely dominant conference, but you're going to have Hamidi, Caliendo, Messenbrink, Amin, Fish, and Hepner. Like, you're going to have a lot of different guys that could shake up that conference tournament, and then all of a sudden your seeds at the Nationals are just abysmal. And then all of a sudden someone that loses to the wrong guy, let's say Messenbrink loses to somebody early, all of a sudden he's the 9 seed that you don't want to have.
That's a super valid point. And Keegan O'Toole was wrestling Ramirez pretty close. He was actually down 4-1 or 4-0 and came back and majored him in the duel Sunday. So, like, I talked to somebody at Mizzou's program because Mizzou's dueling and hosting Oklahoma State Sunday on their senior night, and I am actually doing the play-by-play on Sunday morning. Mark, you'd be proud of me, 9 a.m. microphone call. So the Mountain Dew Zero will be flowing early and often for the Stillwater Liberty duel. So 2 top 35 teams in the country on the undercard there, which will be on Flow, by the way. So go ahead, Mark. Picks.
I don't know. This is another weight that, I mean, you could throw darts at. I really like the way Caliendo's wrestling. I think his only hiccup this year was against David Carr, and the reason is David Carr, of all these guys, once he gets in on you, finishes better than anybody else. And I think that's one of David's, strong points to his wrestling careers. When he gets in on something, he finishes it really well. So I'm going to go Keegan. I'm going to go David Carr. I'm going to go Caliendo. And I'm going to go Messenbrink. I think those are your top 4 guys on paper, and I think they're your top 4 guys at the national tournament if they get put in the right side of the bracket. That's the problem. I'm trying to pick 4 guys, and I have no idea where they're going to be in the bracket to be in the semis.
I get it. Well, we talked about
in the top 4, all 4 of those guys.
Well, maybe a better way to say it is we think these guys can all place top 4 because even like if I bump into GT in the quarters, but we think I'm the 4th best guy, I can come back through on the backside. So I'm going to go O'Toole, Carr, Olynyk, Messenbrink. I actually think like tier 1 is O'Toole, Carr, Messenbrink in some order. Ramirez, like his best win is a really close win against Carr. Then he didn't wrestle him when they could have at the collegiate duels. And then Keegan put it on him. Hamidi just keeps flying under the radar, but I don't think he can. Olynyk killed him in the in the All-Star meet. And that will weigh in the coach's vote's mind. Like, it doesn't count, but it counts. So I think Messenbrink has the highest ceiling from the Big Ten because, like, Caliendo has lost to Carr and Hamidi has lost to Olynyk, and I don't think those guys are going to end up getting seated above them. I just don't think that's going to happen because head-to-head is a gigantic criteria where Messenbrink has no head-to-heads against O'Toole, Carr, Olynyk. So, all right.
I think, David, if Caliendo wins the Big Tens,
yeah,
no matter what Olynyk does, unless he wins the Big 12s, I think he gets seated over Olynyk.
Maybe.
Because Olynyk will have more losses. Right now, Caliendo has one loss.
But again, you're talking about 1 loss versus 2 or 1 loss versus 3. Okay. Because if you say Olynyk loses to Keegan in the dual Sunday and then takes 2nd or 3rd at the Big 12s, the other thing is this: the rubric is the rubric, but they have given themselves, like, if Grant's at 9.9 and I'm at 9.8, they're allowed to switch things. The rubric is the starting point. If they're within a certain bandwidth, they're allowed to adjust. Yeah. Okay, 174. Carter Sirachi, Makai Lewis, Shane Griffith, Cade DeVos, Peyton Mako, Nick Incontrera, PK, who just beat Edmund Ruth, Canigliaro, Kemp down the line. Rocco Welsh, by the way, this is a whole separate conversation, but just to point this out, he was tied with Shane Griffith, picked down, and never got to his feet. And Grant and I were talking about off the air. Auto down is a thing of the past, and you can now win with 1 takedown and versus a takedown. If Grant takes me down and I got 2 escapes in the old days, it's 2-2 overtime. Now it's 3-2, which we saw very early in the year with Gabe Arnold Feldkamp. That's exactly what happened. 3-2. So, okay, I don't know whose turn it is. I'll go first. I don't know whose turn it is. I mean, Starachi, next topic, is one of them. I'm going to take Makai. I'll go DeVos and I'll go Peyton Mako. GT.
I'll take Starachi, Makai. I'm gonna get PK in there, and I'm gonna take Shane Griffith.
Okay, Marco.
I'm gonna go Starachi, Lewis. I'm gonna go with Mako, and I'm gonna go with Kennedy.
Oh boy. Shocking you picked my Iowa guy. Shocking. All
right. He's
Hey.
actually starting to fill into a 74-pounder. Even though next year I think he'll be at 57, I think he's actually wrestling pretty well.
You think he's going down to 57 next year?
I do, yeah.
I was talking to
He's certified this year at 57.
Yeah, I think him or Caliendo up at 57, the other one at 65, and Arnold at 74.
Yep.
Okay, so 84. Kekheisen Plot was a great match. GT, did you watch this match?
A little bit.
Kekheisen kind of kept doing the Jim Brown thing. Like, he looked like he was tired on every restart, but then just exploded when he needed to. Plot's dad told me Plot's beat him in freestyle before, so they're not overly worried about it. Chris Foca absolutely destroyed Clayton Whiting over the weekend. So, Mark, you go first.
Yeah, I'd love to. I'm going to go Keckeisen. I'm going to go Plot. I'm going to go with Bernie, and I'm going to go with Foka.
Okay, I'll jump in here, GT. Those are my same picks. Go ahead.
I think the way that it looks is the way that it looks. Keckeisen, Plot, Munoz, Truex.
Okay, I like it. All
Just
right.
Flat out, make it easy.
Yeah, I don't know. We haven't gone chalk until now, so that's not terrible. Although this way it'll be interesting. Okay. 97, in case people are not watching. Brooks, Hidley, Buchanan, Beard, Sloan, Jackson Smith, Cardenas, Rocky Elam drops because he lost to Cardenas over the weekend. Louis Dupre, Stephen Little, Zach Glazer, who's undefeated still, correct, boys?
Yep.
Okay. He may not be undefeated after the Penn State duel, but has had an outstanding year. Okay. Silas Allred was a Big Ten champion last year. Luke Serber is banged up. I don't know if they're going to get him back in time. I'm not going to – I know a little more than I should for somebody on the air, but it's going to be a tough road to hoe, and I love that family and kids. So, GT, who you got here?
Say Brooks, Hidley, Buchanan, and Jacob Cardenas.
Mark.
Wow. Very good, Grant. Very, very good. Have you done this before, Grant?
I've learned from the two masters that apparently now, like, I'm a ranker and I pay attention to things.
You learned from Obi-Wan and the Panda.
That's a very good ranking there, Grant. I just wanted to give you that.
Thank you.
I am going to go with Brooks. I'm going to go with Hidley. I think those two kind of have separated themselves. I think Buchanan. Haven't seen a ton of him. I know how good he is. So I'm going to stay with him. Wow, that last one's going to be tough. I'm going to go with Michael Beard. I'm going to go chalk on this. I think Michael Beard has got ex-Penn State guy. I think there's your top four.
I'll go the top three the same. And I think people are kind of sleeping on Stephen Buchanan. Like OU's not very good this year. They're better, but not very good. And he is murdering people. Like he is destroying people. Super high bonus rate. Him and Hidley would be a fascinating match to me. Body styles, everything else. You know, we're doing like a fantasy draft and we went in order and I get Tanner Sloan, who took second last year. I'll take him. So I'll put him in as the fourth guy. I know that's not what we're doing, but just valid point, as Hardell Moore would say. So, all right, 285. Okay, Mark, I'm going to start with this. I talked to GT before you jumped on. Am I crazy that younger Bastida can wrestle and maybe beat Kirkfleet?
Yeah, I think you are, David.
Okay. Well, we don't think that's crazy.
Who doesn't?
Me and GT.
I'm going to explain something to you guys. Kirkfleet's pretty damn good. And I know how good Bastida can be, but Kirkfleet on top.
No, we're saying he picks neutral.
It doesn't matter. He's going to get taken down.
Okay.
I mean, Kirkfleet is just – he's on a different level right now than any of these guys. So
okay.
Now, can Bastida make the finals? Yes. I mean, I have no doubt that he can make the finals. Will he make the finals? Nah, I don't think so. So, but I'm going to put him in my top four. I mean,
Go ahead.
Kirkfleet, Henderson, Bastida. And then I'm going to go with Colton Schultz just because he is so big and hard to wrestle. I think that's your semi-matches right there.
I'm going to jump in quick, GT, because I got the same picks, but I will say the Big 12 is going to be a lot of fun to watch at this weight class. So, all right, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Kirkfleet, Hendrickson, Bastida, and I'm going to go with Nick Feldman.
That dude's been sneaking duels, man. I think it's the third time this year that he's won a duel. So what's the name of the place in Ohio State? The Covelli Center? Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that duel, by the way, was Friday or Saturday night. It was Friday night because I was watching it on my phone during Oklahoma State, Northern Iowa. And Michigan ran out to a huge, like they were killing them. And then they had to forfeit 41 because of a skin check issue. But then like Ryder Rogotsky got a tech fall at 84 for Ohio State, and then Feldman sneaks Lucas Davison and gets the win. And Feldman's a guy, like Mark, you're talking about a guy that should not pick down. Like, he's just a freshman. Like, I mean that in a good way. He's just not good enough on bottom yet to pick down every time. But, man, he hits good angles on his feet. Like, that dude wrestles like a 160-pounder.
I agree. I picked him to be an All-American. You guys kind of scoffed at me at one time. Just saying. Grant, you remember you were there. You were there, Grant.
But I think one of the things that I think when I scoff at freshman heavyweights is that exact point where they have a tough time with the top bottom. And also there's so much proven talent at this weight class that, like, you know, I had to see him beat Lucas Davidson, right? I have to see him beat. Well, and once again, at the beginning of the year, we would have had Cassiope in our conversation too. So, like,
and he beat Luis Hernandez too, GT, to your point. So, like, I mean,
another really good heavyweight, very good heavyweight.
If you take these rankings, and even if you pick Feldman to place now, the Lucas Davison thing is different because at the beginning of the year, nobody would have picked him over him. And you add Cassiope, there were 7 returning All-Americans. And if you added Gable, there were 8 returning All-Americans. So, I mean, there's not enough room at the dance. I mean, to say at the beginning of the year, he's going to beat those guys that are on the board right there, plus the 2 we just mentioned, because he'd have to beat one of them, an All-American. He could be really good and not be able to beat any of those guys. So, anyway. But, Mark, as usual, you probably will be right. So, all right. Here's the team rankings, and this is combination of intermat, flow, win, open mat. So it's interesting. It's because of where they're ranked, not the points. So Missouri and Iowa are basically neck and neck for second. Oklahoma State and North Carolina State are sort of neck and neck for fourth with Cornell. And then there's kind of a bundle of teams between Michigan all the way down to Arizona State, all within sort of 10, 12 points of each other. So, all right, we'll do this, and then we'll get into a couple duels and boogie out. Top 4 teams, Mark.
Oh, Penn State, Iowa, Missouri. Oh boy, that last one's tough. Man, I'm gonna still stay with Iowa State. I still think they have an outside chance at being in the top 4.
Well, whenever you're doing this, you have to. It's pretty simple. You have to pick guys that you think can do better than where they're ranked. So, like, if you think Echemendia can place, if you think Frost can place, if you think Chittum can place, and if you think David Carr can win it, that's enough of a bump right there. And if you think Bastida can make the finals, then, you know, they're right there.
Yep.
GT?
I think Penn State, Iowa. I'm becoming more of a believer in Oklahoma State as of late, if they continue to wrestle the way that they're wrestling. And then I think I still think Nebraska has a lot of scoring potential that, like, I think one of the reasons why they're really far down there is, like, returning All-American Silas Allred is like having a tough year.
And Rod, like you said. Those two guys are not
and Brock Hardy's a little bit further down than before. But that's a scary team in the waiting that they could, if those guys get hot, they could wrestle extremely well. Caleb Smith, same thing. I just think they got a lot of points there.
Yeah. Well, I think obviously we're all picking Penn State first. I'm going to go Missouri second. I think they have a team that's going to place at 57, 65, 74, 97 and heavy for sure. I feel like they have a finalist at 65. They have a good enough guy at 125, which is an absolute bonkers weight. You know, that guy could go round to 16 and be out, or he could make the finals. Clayton Whiting, I think, will get to the round of 12. You know, their problem is at 33, 41, 49, they're not really a threat to All-American, but all these other teams have a couple weights where they're not going to be a threat to All-American. I think Cornell is going to end up in the mix. And so I'll take the last 2 teams as Iowa and Cornell. Same reason with Cornell. Fernandez is ranked lower than he is right now. A couple things like that. So, am I crazy with Cornell, Mark?
I don't think you're crazy. I think Shapiro could win it at 57. I think he's good enough. Willie, I have no idea right now, but so I think they've got some serious firepower. This, you just said, David, that you don't know what Missouri's going to do at 33. That kid had Vito on the ropes. He was up by 6 points early.
I don't disagree. I'm just saying I don't think he's going to place. And here's what I looked at a lot this year, Mark. There's a bunch of guys that have lost to guys below them and beat guys above them. That's the whole problem at 125, right? Like, if you pick anybody as number one, there's two arguments on why that guy shouldn't be there. So, but you're just seeing more inconsistency. Like, there's less, okay, David's ranked number 3. He's lost to 1 and 2, and he beat everybody below him. Like, super simple to rank. All right.
We also have to make sure that we don't have any high school kids wrestling in college tournaments anymore, because they're really disrupting the flow of things for these college guys because they're beating the number ones. Have you ever seen a high school kid beat a number one, not just once in a year, but 2 different kids twice in the same year?
I don't think that's ever happened. I'd have to go back to Kerry Colott, who's around my age, to go, who did he beat at Midlands, to see historical. And I don't think that even counts, because you're talking about 2 guys. I'm just talking about guys that have done it. And we're talking about Jax Forrest and Marcus Blaze, and super lucky, or fortunate that Forrest is going to wrestle in Border Brawl. Me and GT have talked about that. That's exciting. He's going to wrestle Larkin. But again, like, a bunch of these guys are in these 1-1 overtime matches, and I think they've done a really good job of working on their defense, and then it becomes a 1 scramble match, and we've talked about that before, right? So it's easier to sneak one. Okay, couple duels this weekend. So let me pull this up. Oh, it's Ohio State, Penn State. Hold on.
I could tell you who's going to win these matches.
Well, it's just, basically the premier match is 141, just for people to keep an eye out, right? Mendez, Bartlett, and probably the next best match is D'Amelio, Kasich, and then the next best match after that is Bazakis, Nagao. I don't think we think they can win. Ohio State can win the duel, correct? I just kind of want to give people some things to look out for. Am I correct there, boys?
Yes.
Okay. Iowa against Michigan. Now, this one seems a little more competitive. So Iowa's favored at 25. Michigan's favored at 33. Iowa's favored at 41. Iowa's favored at 49. Iowa's favored at 57. Iowa's favored at 65. Michigan is favored at 74. Iowa 84. Michigan 97. Iowa 97. Michigan 84. Iowa heavy. So a quick count, I think that's 6-4 to Iowa. So not crazy.
I think because you don't have Gomez at 149, I think that's who will be wrestling against Iowa. I think Gomez is favored over Caleb Ratchey. So
then you got it 5-5.
It could be 5-5 easily, yes.
So just to count, Ragusin, Gomez, Griffith, Jaden Bullock, Lucas Davison. Those are the 5, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
On paper, those are the 5.
They're the 5 where they're favored. That's all I'm saying.
Yes.
We're not making picks, and we don't have enough time to make picks. And Caliendo should be a super competitive match, just like Griffith. PK should be a super competitive match, right?
Yep.
Okay. GT, anything to add there?
No, just some of the matches that Iowa's like favored at. Like Caliendo, Amin, and then 74 Griffith's PK. That's battle of the top 10. So those are really good matches to just watch, right?
For sure.
25.
Yeah, I was just
25 same way. Yep.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, the last one I'm going to pull up here is Missouri hosting Oklahoma State. So Oklahoma State's undefeated in duels. Missouri is not. So this is interesting to me. So on paper, I consider 25 a toss-up just because that whole weight's so bonkers. Oklahoma State is favored at 33. Oklahoma State is favored at 41. If Joffrey doesn't wrestle, and he didn't, Oklahoma State is favored at 49. So that's 3 for Oklahoma State. Mahler's favored at 57. That's Father Tolton Catholic Teammates Wrestling. Keegan's favored at 65. Peyton Mako's favored at 74. So you're 3-3-1 with the toss-up. Plott's favored at 84. And then the Elam boys are favored at 97 and heavy. So if Spratley wins, it's kind of 5-5 on paper. So anybody want to pick wings on this and pick a team?
I'll take Missouri to win it.
Okay. I got to take Missouri. I'm at Missouri.
I'll take Okie State.
All
Okay.
right, you're buying wings for both of us then, Grant, if we win.
Or we can just split a plate. It's fine.
I'm going to need to do a little locker room speech if we do that. I'd be like, excuse me, guys, we got to get this one.
Let's get it rolling. Yeah, for sure. So, okay. I think that's really it. Del Barton Blair is on tonight on Rockfin. As I get more involved in the high school world, that's an exciting duel to watch. Battle in New Jersey. Anything else you guys are keeping an eye out this weekend?
No, I mean, Grant, what's Grandview doing these days?
Well, there's a huge women's tournament at Grandview University. I was out at USA Wrestling here, and Jess Medina is going to be bringing over some girls from the Olympic Training Center there. So that'll be a really big women's event heading into the Midwest. And then another NAI tournament is the Missouri Valley Open, just where a lot of teams can go get matches there in Marshall. So not a ton of stuff going on within maybe some of the divisions right now. A lot of duels are happening between, teams. This is a big part of the finishing up their dual season before heading into conference. So be sure to check out your NCAA Division 2, 3 NAI and women's duels heading into this weekend. Probably some of them are going on tonight, tomorrow, and potentially Sunday.
I did notice on Flow they got division in NAI. They got Grandview ranked number 1 in Life 2, but it's only like a 4 or 5 point difference total for the finals, at nationals for tournament team. So it must going to be very, very competitive this year.
Oof. Yeah. I mean, the NAI national tournament is just, it's a great, wild national tournament. I mean, once again, it's the same thing kind of when you look at any national tournament where guys come out of the woodwork, guys that you then either they just got healthy or hot at the right times. But yeah, this national tournament is going to be a really fun and spectacular one to happen. So I'm excited about that opportunity.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a battle. We watched the national duels. By the way, the Iowa women's team won the national duels and only won 4 out of the 10 matches, which was kind of bonkers. You don't see that very often, but I was thinking about it. A pin in freestyle is worth 2.5 times more points than a decision where both guys score or both athletes score, where it's only 2x decision versus pin and folk style. So I got this up here. People are watching. If not, I just put up here ASU wrestles OSU Friday night. So hopefully we'll get Figueroa Spratley and, Parco Alvarez, I think is probably the other, if Jesse Vasquez is healthy, I'd love to see him wrestle Tegan Jamison. So, I mean, ASU's got that tournament team where they're not good, they're not great. And, they're not going to probably place. I mean, I think they're hoping Klebo can get back to, a guy that made a world team as an age group guy, but just never know. So, all right. For GT and Mark, I'm David. Thanks to everybody for watching and listening. We'll speak to you all next week.